is up, my ninjas? I'm Strident, and I am back with another action figure review. This time we're reviewing the DC Collectibles Justice League War Cyborg. This is a figure I've been waiting for a while because this figure and this design kind of embodies what I've always felt Cyborg needed to actually look like and embody as a character. I mean, instead, if he's supposed to be the most cutting-edge technology on the planet, he should not look like a refrigerator. He should look like something not of this world. I mean, it's kind of funny that there are parallels to the Extremis armor with this look and, you know, the functionality in the series, but, you know, what are you going to do? It's comics. This is how they do things. But let's get into it. Sculpt-wise, they kept things very simple with this figure. He is based on the animated style that was used in the Justice League War film. I wasn't a big fan of the film. There was some cool action. It's just story-wise, it just fell apart for me. But this figure, of all of them that I've seen, it was between him and Wonder Woman that I was going to go pick up. But I think he's the best looking one of the bunch. It's weird, though, because this is kind of a cheaper figure. The paint apps are just kind of not as great as with, you know, like you saw with the Capullo style one, or you know, any of the other regular DC collectibles figures. It's just like you're seeing all these nicks and scratches and like paint overlapping, like you can see right there under his chest plate, like right above one of his rib cages, or his rib cages. Wow, above his rib. The silver is kind of bleeding, you know. You're seeing like the paint chipped off the joints, and it's just all kinds of strange to me. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Why is it? And it's because this was 20 as opposed to the $24, $25 figures. And then you'll see that practice even amped up more when we compare this to, if you were to compare this to the $40 Thrasher suit Batman, because that figure has a whole nother level of detail on it. So I don't know. Maybe this is their new, this is their new initiative. This is how they're going to do things. And I don't know if I 100% agree with it. I think, you know, all across the board, you should have a certain level of quality. But I guess I'll take it for now because at least my figure didn't fall apart. I even was playing with this guy, and he's pretty sturdy. So kudos to them for fixing that, you know. The design is super accurate. He looks exactly like what you saw in the film. It looks better than the comic design, in my opinion. It's just not super clunky. And even if it was to be clunky, the pieces need to look a certain way. That's why I dug the way he looked in Flashpoint, not the animated film so much. I'm talking about the way he looked in the Flashpoint comic book. Even that was more interesting to me than Jim Lee's version in the New 52. But there's, you know, the little bit of detail that is there is very well done. Things like the access ports on the back of his head, it's pretty dope. I'm like, you know, they didn't have to do that, but they did. And when I say they didn't have to, I mean, it's a tampo. You can clearly see that. But it's a detail that was there in the show, so, or the movie, so they had to somewhat put it in there. I would have preferred if they sculpted it, though. I will not let this review end without me telling you guys that much. I would have really preferred them sculpting, you know, a lot of the details that are painted on there. But I guess this is their cheaper strategy for these particular types of figures, so, you know, you get what you can get. Face sculpt is really nice. It's a different brown-faced man. It's not like, you know, the DCUCs. You kept getting the same face over and over and over for the brown people, and until Calder came around, and then Calder has his own unique face because it's an animated figure, you know, and I like that. He looks good from just about every angle. I like the type of nose he has. I like how his chin and his jawline are so thick. You know, he just seems like even before he was a cyborg, he was a pretty powerful dude, like strong guy. And I know with black folks in comics, they usually make us strong, if that's going to be, you know, an attribute. But, I mean, he looked like an athlete, you know, like someone who pushes himself a lot. And The figure actually, captures all those details, and I like that shit. It looks good in this case, considering Cyborg is a character that's been around for so long, and it seems like for a very long time he's had like no his figures haven't reflected all the changes the character's been going through. I mean, why is it that I can only think of 3 Cyborg figures, and one of them has been released 50 billion times? And I'm talking about the classic Cyborg from the old school, Teen Titans. We've seen that so many times, and then all the upgrades in the subsequent years. Where were the figures of those guys? So I don't know. This was a welcomed addition to my collection. I love this figure and the design. So another thing with these DC collectibles figures based on animation, um, they're it's kind of like they're dumbing down what they've done with the signature series, or I'm sorry, the designer series. So they mimic the animated series style, but then they dumb down the articulation. When I say dumb down, it's so much less than what you would expect when you look at these figures. And for the size, it doesn't make sense. But anyway, that's his arm moving up, outstretched to the side. That's how far up it can move. He does not have a bicep swivel, and this is where it begins with the cutting down on the articulation. No bicep swivel, which even the basic New 52 figures had that. I mean, they didn't have any leg articulation. Like, they had the basic, H joint and the bending knees, and that's it. But anyway, single bend at the elbow. It looks pretty good. What they did was, instead of giving you a bicep swivel, you have the swivel at the elbow. And I kind of hate that, because it's like double stress for your elbow. When you're bending it, if the joint is stiff, then you're putting stress on the peg that holds that lower arm in place, and I don't like that. This is how far down his arms go when relaxed. And if you look at the arms, you can see one is twisted one way, one is twisted the other way just a little bit. And these joints were pretty stiff, but I don't mind, because they moved. I mean, like, I could move them. It's just they would hold the pose that I put them in really well. That's him looking to his left. Really no issues with the head movement. Nothing feels restricted. It's him looking to the right. I don't know, my left, his right. It's just that, because of this simplicity, some things work better. This is him looking straight ahead at you, obviously. The design of the figure allows for certain articulation to actually be, really well done and work really well. Like when he looks down, he looks down. It doesn't look that like he's looking down that much, but there is a decent range going on. Things like the shoulder pads, they actually are articulated, and the knee pads as well. Looking up, it looks really cool, because, like I said, he doesn't have a whole bunch of crap going on in the back of his head, and he can actually look up, and it's a barbell. So, like, you still have movement from the base, and then you have movement at the top of the the neck, which is awesome. Base of the head, base of the neck. This is as high as he can move his leg up, and because of the sculpt, he can't just move his leg out straight in front of him. It kind of goes out to the side. There's a single bend at the knee, like I told you. There are articulated knee pads. And that's really it. No more articulation below the knee, which was strange, and it's kind of okay for, certain things like this. If you have a stand with a peg, he only has one peg, so if you put the peg and the foot in that one peg, he can kind of balance himself. It looks pretty nice, seeing him able to do this. So kicks and things like that aren't a problem. Also, at the top of his hips, on the Extremis armor, it was really hard for you to put Iron Man in wide-legged stances, because the hips or thigh armor kind of juts out and hits him in his side. Here, they made that stuff out of a softer rubber that goes over his entire leg, which I thought was an amazing idea, because that's not what you normally get from DC Collectibles. Everything would be this hard, ABS, and you put him in a split, and his leg would break. So kudos to them for that. I like it. I want to see more of it. Now, as I said before, Cyborg is a character who is constantly upgrading himself. Why is it that it took this long for us to get a different Cyborg figure? I mean, besides this, there are two other non-classic Cyborg figures that I can think of, besides the horrible Teen Titans figures. I mean, they had good articulation, they're Bandai figures, but I mean, in comparison, they're so bad because they were so goofy looking. But that's one of my nitpicks. The paint, I don't understand why the paint had to take such a nosedive. It feels so unnecessary. It almost feels like they just cheaped their way out of it, and they're gonna get, they're gonna make money hand over fist. They should have just not really made that big of a difference, money wise or cost wise, and just keep your level of quality up there so that people will know that this is a line they can look to, and pay a little bit. You pay what you normally pay at the comic book store, but your figure is worth all the trouble. I mean, that would have been awesome in my opinion. The what else? I don't know. I mean, besides that, there's not that much else. I mean, some of the articulation is kind of meh. It's like you could have done this instead of this, you know. But looking at him side by side with the DCUC one, I mean, there's some improvement, but I would like to get one that's this sleek, but has as much detail as the DCUC version. I don't know if that's a tall order or not, but I mean, I just want my figure to kind of feel like, I want him to feel like a piece of artwork. That's pretty much why we collect, And I'm not saying this one doesn't, but I'm saying, like, if they had taken a couple more steps, then this thing would really, really be awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of just painting on or tampoing on the, whatever that arc reactor thing is, on his chest and on his head and on his shoulders and everywhere, if they sculpted stuff like that, that would have been nice, because it's a simple circle. Raise that shit up. That's all you got to do. My other nitpick is that he didn't come with any accessories. Cyborg was shapeshifting into all kinds of shit in this movie, and the Total Heroes Ultra version comes with all kinds of stuff. I mean, removable arms, jetpack, wings, all kinds of things, and they didn't put anything here. Even the DCUC one came with a couple different things you could put on his hand. You could replace his hand with. So I was expecting at least one. You didn't get shit in that department. So if you were expecting that as a fan, then no, you won't get your white sound or white noise blaster arm. They just didn't choose to put that in there. On the other hand, I had some extra parts. This is from a Transformer. And I was like, hey, I can go and dig in my Transformer shit and just put parts on him, because a lot of the newer Transformers have parts to make their arms look like they transformed into the weapon, and this one worked pretty well. So, that's it for my nitpicks. All in all, make sure you just do your research so you know what you're getting. The figure is an awesome figure. He looks really cool with your team. One of the awesome things about him is, even though he's an animated figure, he seems to have a little bit more detail than the rest of them. So he feels at home standing next to your regular DC collectibles. I mean, if you're OCD and you sit there and you nitpick all the details, then you'll find ways to make him, to separate him. And you're OCD, so you're going to separate him anyway. But if you just like variety in the looks of your characters, you put him next to your Superman, you put him next to your whatever, and it looks like, he's just got all this armor on, and it's real sleek and it's clean. And it's just not a whole lot of issues there, The main issues, like I said before, paint, some laziness with things that they could have sculpted that they decided to tampo on. Not that it looks bad, but like for me, I've been collecting Japanese figures, so it's kind of hard to see that stuff and not say anything. His accessory count is nil, and I think all of them are except for Wonder Woman. But if you're cool with all that stuff, then you still have a great figure, And on top of that, you still have a great figure. So anyway, I'm Strident. This has been my review of the Justice League War Cyborg from DC Collectibles. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I will see you in the next video. I hope you dug this one. Peace outside.